Kareth warships came out of transit at 6:14 sector time, and I was already at my console when the alert chimed. 3 heavy cruisers, 2 escort frigates. Holding at the edge of my jurisdiction and transmitting territorial claim codes that had been declared invalid by the Coalition Arbitration Board 11 years ago. I had 47 minutes before their positioning became untenable. I know that now because I have read the engagement record many times since. At the time, I had no idea how much of what I was about to do had already been decided for me. Decided, in fact, 400 years before I was born. Press the emergency relay at 0621. Every sector authority governor carries the relay as a matter of protocol. It is a physical switch, amber-cased, mounted to the left of the primary console. The briefing I received when I took office told me it activated a priority channel to sector, fleet command, and flagged my station as a distress-authorized asset. I had no reason to doubt that. I had pressed nothing like it in 7 years of administration. I pressed it and I waited, watching the Kareth cruisers hold their line, and watching my comms officer, Drev San, watching his board. Sector fleet acknowledgement window is 90 seconds. At 90 seconds, nothing had arrived from Fleet Command. At 110 seconds, Drev San turned from his board, with an expression I had not seen on a Vethari face before. Not quite alarm, not quite confusion, careful stillness that sits precisely between the two. "Governor," he said, "I have a response. It is not from Sector Fleet Command. Route it." The voice that came through was calm. Not calm in the way of a bureaucratic acknowledgement. Calm in the way of someone who had already done the arithmetic and found it untroubling. The speaker identified herself as Garrison Commander Hale Wren of the Terran Defense Compact, and she stated, without preamble, that she was inbound to Tethys Karn in response to a Treaty Addendum 47, Article 9, Subclause 3 activation, and expected to arrive in 14 minutes. She asked me to confirm the nature of the incursion. I remember staring at Drev San. He was already pulling the treaty register. "What treaty?" I asked. There was a short pause. Not a confused pause. Patient one. "The Vethari-Terran Mutual Defense and Civic Assistance Accord of the Third Continuance Period," Commander Wren said. "Your office is listed as the activating authority for Sector 9. You activated. We are coming." She closed the channel without waiting for my reply. I have since read the accord in full. It runs to 219 pages, 11 addenda. Addendum 47 concerns emergency relay activation by any co-signatory planetary authority. Article 9 specifies the response obligations of the Terran Defense Compact. Subclause 3, specifically, concerns hostile territorial incursion by a third-party sovereignty and mandates. And I am quoting directly here, "A full garrison response with all assets available within a 14 light-minute transit envelope." The accord was signed 406 years ago by a Vathuri sector administrator, whose name I now know by heart, Previth Sorath Dund, countersigned by the Terran Defense Compact on behalf of what was then described as the human species' outer sector mutual interest. It has never been revoked. It has never expired. It has, so far as I can determine from the records, never once been read by any of the 7 governors who held this office, between Previth Sorath Dawn and me. 2637, the dome glass above my chamber went white. I have a large dome 12 meters across, looking straight up through the platform's upper hull toward open space. It is meant for observation. I had never had occasion to observe anything through it, besides the planet below and the ordinary traffic of the corridor lanes. What I observed at 0637 were 3 warships dropping from transit simultaneously, their hulls so large that each one individually blocked a third of the dome's field of view. They came in with their running lights on. Daylight off the planet's upper atmosphere lit their hulls from below. Gray alloy, heavily worn, panels mismatched where repairs had been made across what looked like decades of service. Behind them, 4 more hulls materialized. A hospital ship, 2 logistics carriers, and something I did not have a classification for, which I later learned was a mobile garrison platform. The Kareth cruisers, I noticed, had gone very quiet. Drev San pulled up the treaty register on the secondary screen and read in silence for approximately 30 seconds. Then he set it down. "Governor," he said, "we co-signed this, I know, 400 years ago. I am aware." He was quiet for a moment. Earth has been our mutual defense partner for 400 years, and nobody in this office knew. I did not have an answer for that. I was watching the tactical display where the Kareth cruisers had begun, very slowly, to reorient their transit vectors away from my platform. They had not been hailed. They had not been warned. They had simply looked at what was now sitting between them and my station and made a practical assessment. Commander Wren hailed me again at ZO 641. Governor Valdoon, the incursion fleet is withdrawing. I have logged their transit signature and filed a territorial claim invalidation record with the Coalition Arbitration Board under the Accords. Article 14 provisions. That will be on your desk by end of day. A brief pause. Where would you like the hospital ship docked? We brought one because Subclause 3 mandates civic assistance alongside military response. I wasn't sure if you needed it, but the clause is clear. I looked at Drevasan. He looked at me. Dock it at Bay 7, I said. Thank you. Understood. Another pause, shorter. We also have a logistics convoy with 60 days of emergency resupply, per Subclause 5, and the garrison platform will need a parking orbit. We're required under Article 9 to maintain a presence until the territorial claim is formally dissolved, which should take about 3 weeks given the arbitration timeline. Her voice carried nothing remarkable in it. No pride, no drama, just the recitation of a checklist. If that's inconvenient, I can request a waiver, but it's going to take longer to process than the 3 weeks. The parking orbit is fine, I said. Good. We'll be out of your way as soon as the paperwork clears. She closed the channel again. I read the accord that evening, all 219 pages. The 11 addenda. I read the original co-signatory record and the counter-signature block and the provision in Appendix C that requires the Terran Defense Compact to maintain what is described as a standing alert posture for all registered co-signatory stations within their patrol envelope. They had been maintaining that posture for 400 years. There is a line in Appendix C that states the compact will not notify co-signatory stations of their alert status unless specifically queried. In the interest of operational discretion, nobody in this office had ever queried. I filed my incident report at 2300. The section marked Requesting Authority noted, Governor Soreth Valdoon, Sector Authority 9, Tethys Karn Platform. The section marked Response Entity noted, Terran Defense Compact Garrison Detachment, acting under Treaty Addendum 47, Article 9, Subclause 3. The section marked Response Assessment required me to characterize the appropriateness of the response relative to the threat level. I wrote, proportionate and complete. Then I added a note in the supplemental field. Because I felt it was relevant to the record, the activating authority was unaware of the treaty prior to acquisition. The responding authority arrived in 14 minutes regardless. The treaty appears to have been functioning correctly for 400 years without the knowledge of any Sector 9 governor, since the original signatory. The response compact does not appear to require our awareness to remain active. Drevson read the report before I transmitted it. He initialed his section and handed it back without comment. Then at the door, he stopped. 400 years, he said. Yes, he considered that for a moment. They just kept the posture the whole time, without us knowing. Apparently, he nodded once slowly. I'll add the treaty index to the standard office intake briefing, he said, for the next governor. That would be appropriate, I said. He left. I transmitted the report. Through the dome above my desk, I could still see the garrison platform's running lights in parking orbit. Steady, hurried. The way you leave a light on for someone who might need it, whether or not they know to look for it. I have held this office for 7 years. I pressed a button I did not fully understand, and 14 minutes later, 400 years of quiet readiness came through my dome glass and docked at Bay 7 and asked where I wanted the hospital ship. I did not call Earth. I did not know I could. They came anyway.